Three, two, and one. Welcome back to the Media Files podcast, everybody. Now, today, well, I kind of don't want to, get into that, but whatever. Last episode, talked about a couple things, of course. Now, today's topic is about gaming consoles. Now, again, as I'm speaking today, there are a lot of things going on with the Nintendo Switch 2, quote unquote tariffs and all other stuff. Listen, the way I feel about it is if you want to sell something for a specific price, before all of this started happening, they already had in mind what they were going to sell it for. There's no ifs, buts, or what's about it. But I'm not going to get into that. I feel like there are plenty of videos and other content creators who talk this topic to death. Today, what I want to talk about are, or maybe the idea or the concept of, are older consoles better than the newer ones? And I think a good way to kind of, do the comparison for me, because again, everybody has their own personal opinion. A lot of us, I grew up on Game Boy, like the Game Boy was in black and white. There was a Game Boy Color that was obviously in color, and then the Game Boy Advance, SP, and it continued to evolve, the Nintendo DS and all those other things, right? But the most important thing to think about is the functionality and the purpose that those things are created for, right? So a lot of times when I think about it, it's also kind of like the purpose of like our phones. Like, for example, back in the day, phones were, on the wall, they were not as mobile as they are today. Like I had a Nokia, that was like my first phone, like this blocky looking thing. The only thing I could do on it was call and send a message. But nowadays, your phone can do everything and almost anything. But is it necessary? And I think that's kind of my thought process in terms of, are consoles today even worth like what we're putting into them or what we are expecting to get out of them, right? So I'm going to compare two things. Now, I'm going to compare the PSP from back in the day to, let's just say, the Nintendo Switch, the first one. Again, I'm not talking about the Nintendo Switch 2. That thing has too many problems, too many barriers, too many things that are preventing people from actually wanting to get it. Number two, enjoying it. And three, finding justification to actually want to, invest all of your time and money into something like that. Right. So again, I'm not going into some deep history about the PSP. This is all like what I personally remember and all that I've experienced with this topic. Right. So again, as I said, I remember my first console being the Game Boy. The Game Boy was literally just this small thing that you could play like, Game Boy games on. They were black and white. There was no color to any of them. But then came out the Game Boy Color. Now, this thing revolutionized everything. It was in color. It was portable. It was exactly what kids wanted. That was back in the day when portable consoles relied on batteries. As in, if you went on a road trip, if you went on vacation, you would bring a bunch of batteries with you just in case your Game Boy Color died or Game Boy Advance died. Like, it wasn't until like the PSP age where it was like rechargeable batteries was a thing. But, forget all that. Now, as we're progressing, games are getting more sleek. They're getting more creative. Like, they're just pumping out content, right? Like a brand new YouTuber, just trying to pump out as much content as possible to get some, notoriety. But with that came a lot of other things, like trying different things. When it came to I want to say it was the Game Boy Advance SP. It was either the SP, I think it was the SP. The SP, when they started experimenting with movies and shows. So again, back in the day when physical copies were actual physical copies of a game, whenever you would go to the store, they would actually have like cartridges for shows and movies. Because I remember specifically having one for, I think it was like a Pokemon episode. And back then, that's when they had like the portable DVD players, but now you can, watch movies on your phone. All of it just comes full circle, right? But as we delve into the PSP age, if I had to put on a tier list my consoles, like the consoles that I enjoyed the most, or the ones that because again, you can argue which ones are the best all day long. Because when I look at it, it's not just the specifications. Is it something that I'm going to have fun with? Is it something that I'm going to use a lot? Right? Because you don't want to invest a lot of money into something that you're not going to use. Like imagine spending $500 on a new phone, $1,000 on a new phone for you not to use it. Like that's almost a mortgage payment. Right? So up there, probably number one for me would be the PSP, and probably be the same for a lot of people around my generation. Why? Because the PSP was the pinnacle of portable gaming for us at that time. It might be like, why? You had the advance and all this other stuff. Listen, the PSP offered something so unique that a lot of other consoles just couldn't do. Number one. So we're just going to go down, the different features, right? So number one, it allowed you to play music. And you're like, wow, that's revolutionary. I can do that on my phone. Back then, that wasn't really a thing. Like you couldn't, like we were still burning DVDs and CDs and all the other stuff. For the PSP, you were able to, remembering correctly, you could download stuff onto your SD card and input it into your PSP. And then you could play music from there. You could also do that with movies. But PSP also had, just like with the other games, as I was mentioning earlier, where they had episodes, the PSP actually had full-length movies. Because I remember I had two of them. I had House of the Flying Daggers, and then I had, I think it was a Pokemon movie maybe. But that was revolutionary again. You had a console that could play music, a console that could play movies, and a console that could play games. Now, the PSP was the thing I played the most because, again, it had all of those things in one. You could customize it. There were people who modded it and were able to do all these like fantastical things, right? And I had that thing for years. Even recently, there is a, like a kind of a convention hall or whatever, where they have like a lot of different events near me. It's not near me, but it's like, 30, 40-minute drive from where I live. But I go there frequently. And one day they had like a video game swap meet, where people are selling consoles and, doing different things like that. Right. And one person was selling a PSP, and I was so tempted to just buy it. But then I was like, what am I going to play on it? Right. I mean, but they were selling games too. But also keep in mind, this is something that's highly sought after. I would have bought it frame one, but I'm waiting. There may come a point where I see it again or see another one, and I get it. Because again, that was the most nostalgic thing in my childhood, up there with the PS2. Because I played it so much, right? So with that said, you have the PSP that's able to play movies, music, and games, and you could customize it and do all these different things with it, right? Now, let's move up to the Nintendo Switch. Again, I'm not touching the Nintendo Switch 2. That is a whole nother can of worms. I'm not talking about it. I probably just say Nintendo Switch 2, so it hits the algorithm or whatever. Nintendo Switch 2, and just sprinkle in a little bit of tariffs there. There we go. Now, for the Nintendo Switch, I bought the Nintendo Switch Lite. So for those who don't know, the Nintendo Switch Lite, you know how the regular Nintendo Switch has the Joy Cons that you can detach and then use it for like games on your TV. The Nintendo Switch Lite does not have that. It's a complete just console. The things don't come off. It's just as it is, right? So I bought that just because I was like, oh, I've always wanted one. Mobile gaming, nostalgia, why not? Right? So I got it. And I've probably mentioned this before. I'm pretty sure I have. But I barely use that thing. Like when I first got it, I was like, I bought Super Mario Maker and a whole bunch of indie games. Like Super Mario Maker is the only Nintendo product on there that I actually purchased. I have Subnautica, I have One Piece Pirate Warriors, I have what is it? Nexomon? Like I have that. Like there's so many things on there that I play that are literally, and all offense to you, Nintendo, that are not Nintendo products because again, Nintendo does not believe in putting things on sale. I am not paying $60 or $70 for a game that released over 10 years ago. I'm not doing that. But Nintendo expects you to want to do that, because you are a loyal fan. You are a part of their family. That may have been true at some point, but that is no longer the case for me. But again, let's talk about those features. Now, with my Nintendo Switch, all I use it for are games. And I think that's all I can use it for. I can't watch movies. I can't play music. All I can do is play games. Whoop-de-doo. So it's like I'm less inclined to actually use it and only use it for specific things. Like when I was sick in bed, I went between playing games on my phone, games on the Switch, and games on my PlayStation. Because I couldn't come to my PC. It's like it's in my office and I'm in quarantine to the bedroom because I had the flu. So it's like, okay. But in that time, I was able to play through the first Nexomon. I got halfway through the second Nexomon, like Extinction. I never finished it. It was an interesting game. And I think I definitely had a lot more fun with it than a lot of modern Pokemon games. But again, it's like it's just for that single purpose. Now, are we going to argue which is better? Because again, people are going to say like, oh, but the Nintendo Switch has better graphics and all this other stuff. But then you always have to ask yourself, how much does that actually like lend in his favor, right? Because again, when I'm saying the PSP, there were games on there that were graphically amazing. Like you don't need a game that looks like real life to enjoy it. And I think that's also kind of, another part of this conversation of where we really can't go too many places anymore with technology. Like, and this is funny because I've been looking for a replacement for my Samsung. And I have like a Samsung A52 or something. Never really paid attention to that type of stuff. So I was like, I've had it for 5 or 6 years. And I'm like, it's running slow on some things, getting hot when doing certain things. So I'm like, you know what? Maybe I should start thinking about replacing this thing. Right now, with that said, however, when I was thinking about it and I'm looking it up and I'm trying to figure out, oh, what's the best upgrade for my phone? I looked at the latest Samsung Galaxy and I'm like, that is almost $1,500. Heck no. But then when I'm looking at people's reviews of that thing and other phones, they're like, and this is funny. I'm like, they're literally saying the graphics or the processing or this or that has not improved at all. Literally, they were saying like if you went with an older model phone, I think it was like a 2-year-old model phone, you would have everything that's in this newer phone. And I'm like, well, then what's the point? Again, because people do not think, they think that they have to get what's new. And that's not true. And the reason why I bring up the whole PSP versus the Nintendo Switch debate thing, or those two as a comparison, is because they both serve the function of portable gaming, right? The problem is, what can they do and what do they offer? Excuse me. Because again, when you think about portable gaming, think of your phone. It's portable, as in you can talk to people, you can communicate through call, text, or whatever. You can play games, you can listen to music, you can search the internet, which you could do on the PSP as well. Like, you're able to do all those things on your phone. Now, when it came to the PSP back then, of course, it did all those things. And yes, phones were becoming. Yeah, just had to put a pause there. Phones were getting up to that point of where they could do those things. However, they weren't up to that point yet, right? Nintendo Switch only offers, again, now mind you, I didn't talk about the Nintendo Switch like where you have to pay to play online. You have to do certain things. Like, there's so many limitations versus the PSP where there were no limitations, where it was a console made to serve a specific purpose for portable use. As in, this is the pinnacle of portable gaming. You can watch movies, you can play games, and you can listen to music. Those are the three things that you do when you're on a road trip. Because that's what I'm thinking about when I'm buying a gaming console, especially a portable one. What can I do with it when I'm on the road? Because if I'm playing it at home, I could just play on my PC. But if I get a Steam Deck, then that means I can play my Steam games wherever I am. But with Nintendo Switch, I only have the games that I can download. I can't do anything past that. Like, you're not always just playing games. There are times where you just want to sit and chill, watch a movie, listen to music. And remember, this is portable, as in you charge it up for those moments of like, what if the power goes out? So all you have are games to play. Okay, what if that game starts getting old and without any power, you can't download anything more? But with a PSP, if I have a whole bunch of cartridges, I can just slap one in and just keep moving. Right? Like, that's why I think those older consoles were made so much more with the intent of mobility, because they were made to function that way. Nintendo Switch doesn't have that. Yes, you can play games and yes, you can download them. But let's say, for instance, when me and my family went to a trip to Charleston, South Carolina. Why can I not talk today? We went on a trip to Charleston, South Carolina. There was a hurricane that came through, so we stayed at the Airbnb for the whole time. Unlucky. But we didn't spend any extra money, so it was still relaxing and nice. And the last day or so, like, we were able to go out and, try out some local cuisine or whatever. But I brought my Nintendo Switch with me. And I was like, I had to sit there and think. I was like, okay, what games do I want on this thing? Because A, there is a limit. And B, which ones am I actually going to play? So I downloaded Subnautica 2. And, I was like, I played it. I literally got through that game in a couple of hours. Boring. But the point of the matter was, if I wanted a new game to play, I couldn't download anything. It was a hurricane. Power was, iffy. Like, there wasn't much of anything. But that's kind of the point. But if I had a PSP with me, I would have had my little sleeve with like all my cartridges, would have movies on deck. I would have had games on deck. I could listen to music. And I have a portable charger that I could have plugged it into. So, in this essence, the PSP was made specifically for gamers who like to travel, who aren't at home, and who want something that's multi-purpose, that can do different things for them for in different moments, different experiences. Like Nintendo, I don't pay all this just to play games. Now, again, Nintendo, for this Nintendo Switch, there are physical cartridges. I don't want to forget that point. There are physical cartridges. However, in our day and age where we're so used to buying games digitally that we don't even think about that, right? We always assume that there's always going to be a Wi-Fi signal. There's always going to be a means to download something. Let me tell you something. When I brought up the phone example earlier, back then, phones, just like cars, you need to think of those things in that sense. A car's purpose is to get you from point A to point B and maybe back again. Right? Point A is from my house to the grocery store. Then when I'm at the grocery store, point A is the grocery store, and then point B is my home. Easy peasy, right? As in, the function of that car is to run, carry me and whatever I have inside and whoever else I have inside from point A to point B. But now we have vehicles that can, quote unquote, drive themselves or do this and do that. And it's like, that's not the essence of the vehicle. The essence of the vehicle is to get you from point A to point B. Right? It's not about how cool it looks. It's not about like all those different things are things that add to the price of it. Right? Because at the end of the day, you, as things are progressively getting more expensive in certain stratospheres, it's been getting more expensive over the years. Like, I hate it when people are like, oh, things are so expensive now. I'm like, things have been getting expensive. Literally last year, gas, at least where we live, had went over $3. And it is like stayed within that $2.85 to $3 range for the past like 2 or 3 years. Like, it is not something new. So, but I digress. The point of the matter is that for a lot of us, we just need something that runs and gets us from point A to point B. But I don't know what is it with people thinking that I need to have the newest car. What does it do that a regular car like doesn't do? Because let's compare the two. PSP and Nintendo Switch, right? PSP, music, movies, games. Nintendo Switch, just games, right? Old cars, they were older. They got you to point A to point B. You are capable of fixing it yourself. As in, you could go to a store, buy parts for it, and fix it yourself. And it had, CD player, radio, all that stuff that modern cars have. Now let's go now. You have modern cars. You can't fix on them yourself. You have to take them to the dealership, as in you're spending more money. They're making a consistent income because you're having to take it to the dealership for them to fix it. You can't do anything yourself because if you try to, you might mess up something that's going to make it even more expensive. You do have a radio, but you don't have a CD player in most modern. So it's like you got to have radio or Bluetooth. Your phones can connect to it, or you can pay for satellite radio. Wouldn't that be nice? Right? Like, it's no longer just point A to point B. It's I got to have as many features as I can. And most vehicles are electric now. Everything in the car is electrical. So all it takes is for one wire to snap. Your whole car is dead. And you're going to pay a fortune because the dealership has to pretty much take your car apart. And I'm talking about a recent example, somebody that I know. But they have to take it apart in order to figure out what the issue is. So, same thing with the phones. Like, again, back then, just to communicate with people, Music and games were a new thing. But nowadays, you're paying more so for the brand itself and versus, and quote unquote, the features that it offers. As I already, explained with the older Samsungs versus the newer ones, most of them don't even do that much different. They offer quote unquote new features, but those new features can be made available on older phones. Like the whole Gemini AI on my Samsung A5 II, it's on there. It updated to where it's on there. So I don't need the latest Samsung in order to get that. I can still play most games on there. I can still call and text. I can still use a majority of the apps that I have. I can download Wallpaper Engine and customize my phone. Shout out to Wallpaper Engine. That is what you see on your screen right now for those who are watching on YouTube. Those who are listening, I'm sorry. It's a beautiful landscape of a frog eating a cookie, but it's more so of the landscape and moving clouds that add to this piece. But regardless, that is how these things work. We need to get out of this mindset. And that's the same thing with these consoles, is that we're so focused on these quote unquote improvements or quote unquote features that we don't even necessarily need. You're thinking because Nintendo made it, or because Sony made it, or because Xbox made it, or because Samsung made it, or because Apple made it, that what they're releasing is the top of the line, is the best of the best. When the phone you have now, if you replaced it, is probably on par, or maybe in some areas better than the newer thing. Same with the consoles. Just because you get a Nintendo Switch, the PSP, in my mind, is far better than that thing. Because again, the versatility is what made it unique. Versus all I can do on is play games. I have to pay an online subscription just to play online with other people. And you're milking that because you're forcing people. So if you buy, most Mario games, they're multiplayer. So you're paying twice. You're paying for the game and you're paying for the online subscription. You've been played. And it's okay to, admit that. It's okay. But the point of the matter is you need to understand that just because it's new doesn't mean it's better. Because what you have is probably the best you're ever going to have. Right? Like there's this console kind of downgrade that's been occurring these past couple of years. Where, for example, Sony and Xbox are trying to entice people into buying the new console by making console exclusives. Like when they released the PS5 and they were like, oh, it's going to have the new Spider-Man 2 game. And immediately I knew for a fact I was not going to buy a PS5. Want to know why? Not because the money was a big issue. But if your selling point is that you can play this exclusive game on it, that's a no-go for me because one, I don't know if the game's going to be good. Imagine spending $600 on a console, like $60 or more for the game itself. You're paying for the online subscription, okay? But the game sucks. But you have a PS5 now. There are these people who are like, oh, I can tell if you're on a PS5 or PS4 or whatever, and I can tell people who have money. And I'm like, they just didn't buy a console that is expensive and they didn't need. I don't need the new Spider-Man 2 game because it comes out on consoles. So at the end of the day, there is literally no reason. So at the end of the day, everything has steps, right? You have to ask yourself, especially nowadays, gamers, consumers are becoming more conscious about what it is they're spending their money on. Is a new phone worth it? No. Is a newer phone worth it? Probably not. Because again, the newer it is, the more it costs. Mm, I would rather, literally, I would rather just throw some random stuff into a bowl and eat it than spend $1,500 on a phone that literally has the same or close to the same specifications as the phone I have now. And same with the Switch. I would rather spend so much more on a PSP in order to do more things and have that versatility versus having a console. Now, again, Nintendo said, oh, if you do anything to it, we can brick it and you'll never be able to use it again. Nah, that's a no for me. So anybody still like, I want a Nintendo Switch 2 after all that? Nah, you can have that. But let's be smart gamers. Older consoles, yes, had limitations, but they were made for a specific person or a specific purpose. The purpose of mobile gaming, introducing new titles on the game. Like, that's just how those things were made. Nowadays, it's about, oh, this is from PlayStation, so you need to buy it. This is a PlayStation exclusive. You have to buy this. This is an Xbox exclusive. You need to buy this. For Nintendo Switch, you can't play old Switch games on here, so you have to buy all the new ones. You have to take in mind, think of it this way. There's a psychology that comes with these type of things. Think about it in terms of who's benefiting the most. I think for me, when I was a kid, I benefited the most when I had a PSP. Had a mobile game, music on the go, and movies that I could watch whenever I wanted. Mom's out shopping and I'm bored, hop in a movie. On a long road trip, listen to some music as I fall asleep. Those are the kind of things you can't get out of most consoles nowadays, right? So it benefits me more. But look at it now. So I'm going to say me versus Nintendo Switch 2, right? Costs a lot of money. So that's more money in their pocket. A subscription. So they're limiting my access to multiplayer games and online access. So that benefits them, not me. Number 3. Let's see. They can brick my console whenever. So it benefits them, not me. Like, those are 3 strikes against me already. Like, the price, too much, strike against me. Well, I said that as the first one, but you get the point, right? The specifications or requirements they said originally are not necessarily true. That's a strike against, me, because what you would expect is not what you're getting. There are exclusive titles that only you can play on this thing. You see how, as you look at it that way, the consumers get less of a benefit and Nintendo gets all of the benefit. The games they're releasing aren't that good. Like, there is literally no reason. But again, you make your own decisions. You're a grown adult. But what I want you to do is actually think about those things. Think about what it is you're putting your money towards and is it worth it? Because again, as we are maturing and growing older, you have to weigh those pros and cons. Is the thing that you're spending your money on benefiting you more than it's benefiting the company? Like, for example, we bought a sofa couch for our office, have guests or whatever. And I said, we actually spent like less than $300 for this thing. Thing was like $250 for it. It's really nice. But the point of the matter is, I was like, oh, it's nice. So we can use it for guests. And when we move, I can put it in my man cave. So it has a purpose beyond just guests. And when I'm done recording or if I'm doing something, I could just sit on the couch and relax. That makes sense for me. But if I went out and I said, I'm going to spend $200 on this piece of steak, but that $200 only goes to them, and I probably maybe get half full from that steak, and it may not even be that good. So I would go with the couch over the food because at least the couch is long term. The steak goes in my stomach, gets processed, and gets shipped out almost immediately, depending. So those are the things you guys need to think about. It's not about shaming each other. It's about being informed about your decisions, knowing that you have made the best decision you can for yourself and your finances, and go from there. Gamers, we need to be smarter. Companies are assuming that we're stupid, and we're not. You are smarter than them. Just don't buy into the hype. Don't buy into the news. Think about what you're doing and is it worth it? And parents who have kids that are asking for these things, explain this stuff to them. Explain the pros and cons because, again, that's how life will work for them. Like getting a degree. Am I going to get a degree that offers the least amount of opportunities or the one with the best or the most opportunities for me? That's how it works. But that's it for this episode. I kind of talked about two things today, but that's good. That's okay. You guys, if you made it to this part, if you did, thank you. Thank you. But if you're listening to this on the podcast, make sure to follow, share with some people. Again, we talk about all things media, all things technology. Well, not necessarily technology, but media, that bleeds into technology as that's how we consume our media nowadays. If you're on YouTube, make sure to like, subscribe, make sure to comment down below your favorite part or what your thoughts are on older consoles versus newer consoles. And also go ahead and talk about how you feel about the whole Nintendo Switch situation. You know what? A good challenge. Down below, make your own pros and cons chart. Name the pros versus the cons in terms of buying something. Some of you could do Nintendo Switch. Some of you could do a brand new car. Some of you could do bubble gum from the Dollar Tree. There could be a potential cons there long term. But other than that, you guys enjoy the rest of your day and peace out.